Hey, so today I wanted to show off some commands related to database users. Before I started recording the video, I set up a test database. It's a private database, so we're gonna show off a few quality of life Ymir CLI things, because right now with private databases, you need to have a Bastion host to connect to your um, database server. So there's some things that Emir can't do because when managing users or even databases with private databases. So I just want to show off ways that the Emir CLI kind of helps you a bit with that. Since I can't do everything myself, like I can't automate everything for you. At least not yet. I'm thinking of ways of doing it, but it's not there yet. So to begin, you'll see that we have our Emir user. So that's always the default user, the master user with the password. I don't mind showing it. I'm going to delete this after the video. The first thing you might want to do is you might want to change this password. So, or for some reason you lose it. So I mentioned this just above here. I say that you should write down this this password or put it in your password manager, because I won't show it again. This is really part of Emir's security layer for your infrastructure. Emir encrypts, keeps a copy of the password, obviously, but it's encrypted at rest. So that means that I can't see what that password is. It's encrypted in the database. So the only time that you will see it unencrypted is here, or if you go yourself in your project on your AWS infrastructure. So if you want to change the password, it basically comes down to what we call rotating a password in sysadmin language. So if we do that, what it's going to do is it's going to contact AWS, say, okay, here's a new password. So you don't get to choose it. So that's really important. And then the command will return you that password. So let's take a quick look at it. So Ymir database server rotate password. So we choose our database. I'm choosing the test database. It's going to warn us. So any project that was using that test database with the Ymir user. So if you didn't specify a user in your ymir.yaml config file, will lose connection to that database once we say yes. So we're going to say yes. And here you go. We get a new password back. The process started. It takes a few minutes to complete, but really it's usually about 1 minute. And there's an important note after, is that you need to now redeploy all your projects that were using that database. So it's a really destructive command, but it's sometimes necessary because you might lose the password. But it's an important aspect of how I approach security with Ymir. It's that I don't want to send passwords over API calls except when I'm generating them. So you'll get to see them once. If you want to get them again, you need to basically rotate the password. And that's the same thing with users. So if we create a user, so here's where we're gonna see a bit of this this kind of like quality of life that I've tried to help with the private database. So if we try to create a new database user, so you want to create it on test, we'll just call it test user. So what happens here is we're going to get the user and the password back. It's going to give us a similar warning. If you want to change the password, you need to use the database user rotate command, and then the database password was created. But here is the new part, which you won't get if you're managing. Here, let me move this up. if you have a public database, you won't get this message. So what this says is that basically Ymir is now aware that you want a user to exist on the database, but it wasn't able to create it for you. So what I do is I give you the two queries. In fact, I might try to improve this a bit because it's not as clear, like maybe color it. But basically, it's not clear that you've created a user for the database. So, sorry, what I meant to say is that Ymir knows that you created a user, but since it can't go and connect to the database and create it, it knows that it can ask you to do the SQL query. So you don't have to worry about, oh, what query do I need to run to create the user myself? They're right here. So if we have to connect, I don't have a Bastion host, so we're not going to show it off today. But it would be, you create that user identified by the password. It's the same password. And then you want to grant it access to all your tables. So again, if you want to limit that, you can do that. But because Ymir is not aware of what the databases are on your server, on your database server, it just offers you the query to do that. And that's kind of like what's happening with that. And then if we want to do the same thing as we did before, database user rotate password. We again select the database, asks us which user we want to rotate. You'll notice it's only the custom users. It's not the master user. The master user, you have to use the database server rotate password command. And we say test user, and we say yes. And again, similar thing's gonna happen. So we have the username, the new password. You'll get the query that you want to run on the server to change the password, and the same note that you get with the rotate password command. So the server rotate password command, because again, if you're using those users on live environments, the database will stop. The connection won't work anymore the moment you make the server change, the password change. So it's really important to either deploy or redeploy your projects right away after you've done those changes. And the last thing we're going to show off is just you can if you want, you can see all the users on your database that Ymir manages. So that's an important caveat to mention. If you add custom users that not true Ymir, they won't show up with the database user list. But otherwise, you'll get it. And if you want to delete it, same idea. So you can do Ymir user delete. And then we say we want to delete the test user, and then you say yes. And see, it gives you, again, because it's not publicly accessible, you get it shows you which query to run. And that's kind of it. Those are the main commands that you're going to use to manage users, your database users with Ymir.